Good afternoon, RhinoCats, and welcome back to our Five-Finger Retell Friday, where we read from a text or chapter book in this case, and then answer some questions on it by using a five-finger retell. So our five-finger retell, remember, helps us remember or recall details from a story using your fingers. It can also help you identify the main idea or theme of your text. So super important to be familiar with our five-finger retell. And just as a refresher, characters, so the who or what our story is about, setting, when and where our story is taking place, the problem, so what goes wrong, the events in the story, and solution or how the problem is solved are all components of our five-finger retell. So what we're going to do today, guys, is we're just going to read chapter 2 of Goosebumps SlappyWorld, Revenge of the Invisible Boy. Remember, we read the prologue the week before last, which was the introduction to our chapter book. And then last week we read chapter 1. So it's already starting to get interesting. I hope you guys made some predictions last week or made some good guesses about what you think is going to happen next in this story. So just to kind of summarize or retell what's been going on in the story so far, in our first chapter, we met our main character, and his name is, Frankie Miller. We learned that he is 12, that he is a magician, and his magician name is Magic Miller. And he talked about how he hates this boy in his class who's kind of like a frenemy to him, Ari Goodwin. So he's really upset with Ari. He just doesn't think he's very sensible, but he uses his house to meet up for his magic meetings with his friends. And Ari is also currently helping him pull off a magic trick for the talent show at school. So that's where we left off in the first chapter. Frankie Miller, our main character, is trying to levitate or float on stage. Obviously, it's a magic trick, and Ari Goodwin is helping him pull it off by pulling up on his rope that's holding him up on stage. But it sounds like he just dropped it. So that's where we're starting for chapter 2. So I'm going to start reading, guys. Just relax, think about characters, how they're changing, new characters, how they're interacting with each other, any problems that are occurring, how our characters are trying to solve these problems or work through them, and any predictions about or good guesses as to what you think is going to happen next. Those are all things we should be thinking of while I'm reading. So chapter 2 in Goosebumps SlappyWorld, Revenge of the Invisible Boy. My scream cut off as I landed hard on my belly. My breath whooshed out of my mouth. I sprawled there, choking, struggling to breathe. On the catwalk above me, I heard Ari. Oops, my bad. I knew what had happened. The wheel handle had slipped out of his hands, or else he had just let it go. My bad, he shouted. Sorry, Frankie. Seriously, I'm sorry. Still gasping for breath, I glanced up. Ari had a grin on his face. He wasn't sorry. Who makes an apology with a grin on his face? Melody and Eduardo hurried across the stage. They took my arms and helped me to my feet. Then they guided me to the wings. The audience was silent. I heard a few boos. He ruined my trick. He made me look like a loser, I muttered, shaking my head. Ari strikes again, Melody said. He embarrassed me in front of the whole school. I finally started to breathe normally. I gazed at Eduardo and Melody. Do you think it was an accident? It had to be, Eduardo said. Ari is a creep, but he wouldn't try to hurt you. Eduardo is a nice guy, and he always wants to think nice things about people. Sometimes he's so cheerful and kind, it gets on my nerves. After he dropped you, I saw him grinning, Melody said, like it was a big joke. That's because he was embarrassed, Eduardo insisted. He knew he messed up. What did he expect Ari to do, Melody? Or what did you expect Ari to do, Melody? Burst into tears? He didn't have to grin, she replied. He grins every time he messes up. How about last week when he performed for our first kid's birthday party. He forgot to load flowers into our magic wands, and we stood there waving them like idiots. He just forgot, Eduardo said. But Ari wrapped his cape around that little boy's head and scared him to death, and the birthday boy's mother asked us to leave. She overreacted, Eduardo said. How can you stick up for him? Melody demanded, giving Eduardo a hard shove. He messes up everything. Eduardo shrugged. He didn't answer. I rubbed my chest. My ribs were sore from the fall. Did I ever mention that I hate him? I said. I wish there was some way to pay him back. Melody nodded. Yeah, I wish. That was a short chapter, guys. That was the end of chapter 2. So clearly Frankie Miller fell, or he was dropped by Ari Goodwin when he was trying to float or levitate for his magic trick during the talent show, which was obviously really embarrassing. We see how frustrated and embarrassed Frankie Miller is, and he definitely is blaming Ari. And it seems like he thinks he did it intentionally, right? So lots of problems. It also seems like they really want to get some revenge on Ari. It seems like they're really, at least Melody and Frankie do. Eduardo, I don't know. It seems like he's a little unsure. He wants to be forgiving. He wants to see the best in people. So he doesn't think Ari maybe did it intentionally. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen next? I have some guesses. I can't wait to see next week. So next week we'll read chapter 3, and maybe there'll be some sort of confrontation or fight with Ari. I don't know. I can't wait to find out. Guys, go ahead and perform some sort of five-finger retell, whether you write, draw, or just talk about the characters we just read about. We definitely learned some new things about our characters, the setting, so where and when you think that story is taking place, and some problems that happened, and any, of course, predictions, guesses you have as to what's happening next. Enjoy your weekend, guys, and I will check in a little bit later.